1953. The military vehicle's experimental establishment at Chitsey, Surrey. A gray English sky hangs low as a new lorry rolls out onto the test track. It is enormous, 16 tons when loaded, 8 cylinders of Rolls-Royce petrol power, 3 driven axles, a cab the size of a small house designed to carry 12 gunners in full battle order. Engineers stand and watch as it grinds forward through a mud pit at little more than walking pace. It drinks fuel at 3.5 miles to the gallon. Its top speed is 40 miles per hour on a good road. Its engine is already out of date the day it is tested. Petrol, in an army that is already turning to diesel. It looks wrong for the decade it is born into. Heavy, thirsty, archaic. A machine built for a world that is already slipping away. Observers at Chitsey call it the last of the old-school lorries. A Victorian aero wagon wrapped in post-war sheet steel. And yet, this machine will outlast every rival the War Office considers. It will haul British medium guns across the North German plain for 20 years. It will serve in Cyprus, in Borneo, on the ridges of South Arabia, and in the garrison of Hong Kong. It will still be pulling broken chieftain tanks out of the mud on home ranges 30 years after that first prototype crawls out of Chitsey. Its designations are FV 1103 and FV 1119. Its name is the Leyland Martian. And it will be the last great British petrol-engined lorry the Royal Artillery ever truly trusts. To understand why the Martian exists, you have to go back to 1946. The Second World War leaves the British Army with a fleet of exhausted heavy lorries. The AIEC Matador, designed in the 1930s, has dragged medium guns from El Alamein to the Rhine. The Scammell Pioneer, older still, has hauled tanks out of Libyan sand. Both are worn out. Both are obsolete. Both must be replaced, and quickly, because the Cold War has already begun. In 1946, the War Office draws up a master plan. A new generation of military vehicles, all built around a common family of Rolls-Royce petrol engines. At the smallest end, the Austin Champ, a Jeep-class scout car. At the largest, a 10-ton, 6x6 artillery tractor and recovery vehicle, the FV 11,000 family. The contract goes to Leyland Motors of Lancashire, one of Britain's great truck builders. Development begins in 1950. Pre-production prototypes are bodied by Park Royal vehicles and sent to Chitsey for testing. Series production starts at Leyland's Lancaster factory in 1953. The vehicle itself is a statement of heavy engineering confidence. At its heart sits the Rolls-Royce B81 Mark 8H, an 8-cylinder inline petrol engine of 6.5 liters, descended from the same family that powers the Ferret Scout Car, the Saladin Armored Car, and the Saracen Personnel Carrier. It produces 215 brake horsepower and 336 pound-feet of torque. That power matters. It means the Martian can haul a fully loaded 5.5-inch medium gun across plowed fields that would stop a normal lorry dead. The gearbox offers 4 speeds. The transfer case adds 3 more ratios. Together, they give 12 effective gears. The Martian can crawl at walking pace through deep mud or cruise at 40 miles per hour on a German Autobahn. The suspension is unusual, even by military standards. At the front, a single transverse leaf spring, Scammell style, allowing the axle to pivot across the chassis. At the rear, 2 axles linked by a walking beam on semi-elliptical springs. The wheels climb over obstacles independently without lifting the chassis off the ground. On a tank range at Zenelager, that difference decides whether you arrive or stay stranded. Then comes the recovery variant. The FV 1119 adds the feature that changes British Army doctrine, a Royal Ordnance pedestal-mounted crane, rated at 15 tons, set on a rotating turntable behind the cab. Behind that, a winch rated at 40 tons. According to later museum records, this is the first British Army breakdown vehicle to use a pedestal-mounted rotating crane as its primary lifting device. Loaded weight reaches 16 tons. Fuel consumption is brutal. 3.5 miles per gallon at best, 65 liters per hour at full throttle. The Martian is many things. Economical is not one of them. It is heavy, it is thirsty, it is already obsolete on paper, and yet it is about to prove that paper does not pull guns out of mud. If this story of unglamorous machines and hard military realities matters to you, stay with it. These are the vehicles that make history move. The Martian's working life begins not in headlines, but in gun parks. In the early years of the Cold War, the British Army of the Rhine needs one thing above all else: a tractor that can haul the 5.5-inch medium gun and its ammunition limber across the North German plain, in any weather, without excuses. The Royal Artillery gets its answer. Medium regiments begin receiving Martians through the late 1950s and early 1960s. The 32nd Medium Regiment, Royal Artillery, based at West Riding Barracks in Dortmund, fields them before relocating to Tofrick Barracks at Hildesheim in 1965. The 42nd Medium Regiment, Royal Artillery, operating out of Churchill Barracks in Lippstadt, runs Martian tractors from May 1964 until June 1967, when it finally re-equips with the M109 self-propelled gun. Its batteries are recorded in detail: 49 Inkerman battery, 68 Quebec battery, 94 New Zealand battery, all operating Martians, all towing the same 5.5-inch guns, all grinding across German training areas in rain, snow, and mud. The 5th Regiment Royal Artillery at Gütersloh maintains its own fleet. K Battery keeps Martians and medium guns until conversion to the Abbott self-propelled gun in 1966. For the men who drive them, the Martian becomes something more than a vehicle. It becomes a presence. A Remy veteran, 14 years spent on armored regiment recovery, leaves behind a description no factory brochure ever could. On long-distance recoveries along German autobahns, he writes, "The driver sets the hand throttle. The co-driver takes over steering. The driver opens his door, climbs out of the cab, walks across the deck behind it, clambers down onto the fuel tank, opens the left side door, and climbs back into the co-driver's seat. All while the Martian is still rolling down the road. A full driver change, on the move, without stopping. Then comes the incident that cements the Martian's reputation for survival. British Army of the Rhine, 1970. A Remy team is using an FV 1119 Martian to lift a power pack out of a Chieftain main battle tank on home ranges. Unknown to the recovery crew, a live round has been left in the breech of the ranging machine gun mounted on the turret. The gun discharges. The round punches clean through the Martian's co-driver door. It passes into the battery box beneath the seat. Then out the other side of the vehicle. No one is killed. No one is even injured. No one ever finds where the round finally lands. What remains is a perfectly drilled hole straight through a 16-ton recovery truck, and a crew standing there, very much alive, staring at what should not have happened. Beyond Germany, the Martian follows the guns wherever the guns go. In Cyprus, the 42nd Regiment deploys to Carlos Camp at Famagusta in May 1960. Later, they move to Slim Barracks at Dhekelia. The Martians haul 5.5-inch guns through the final years of the Cyprus garrison, heat shimmering off steel, dust coating everything. From 1962 to 1966, during the Indonesian confrontation, the 5.5-inch medium gun sees action in jungle fire bases along the Sarawak border in Borneo. Its tractor follows. Slow, loud, relentless. Where the gun can go, the Martian goes first. The same pattern repeats in the mountains of the Radfan and on the approaches to Aden during the South Arabian campaigns of the mid-1960s. British gunners fight a rearguard war against tribal insurgencies, a conflict that will mark the end of empire east of Suez. Named combat incidents involving individual Martians are rare. This is not a frontline fighting vehicle. It is something else. It is the Iron Horse that makes the front line possible. The gun fires because the Martian arrived. The ammunition is there because the Martian dragged it in. Even after the regular army moves on, the Martian refuses to leave. Territorial Army medium regiments keep their 5.5-inch guns and their Martians until 1980. Long after self-propelled artillery and lighter towing vehicles become the norm, these old petrol-engine lorries are still working weekends and exercises, still burning fuel, still doing the job. And somewhere in the background, already, the Martian is quietly preparing to outlast everyone who ever said it was obsolete. By the time the Martian reaches the later years of its service, the world around it has moved on. On paper, its rivals look better. Its predecessor, the Scammell Pioneer, is slower, driven by only 4 wheels, powered by a Gardner diesel that sips fuel where the Martian gulps it. The Pioneer is older, gentler, more economical. Veterans who know both tend to give the Pioneer the character prize. But the Martian wins on capability. It is faster, more powerful, far more capable off-road. Thirsty enough to empty a fuel dump in a weekend, but strong enough to go where others cannot. The Americans field nothing directly comparable. The M26 Dragon Wagon is a 40-ton armored tank transporter, a machine in an entirely different weight class. Britain's true equivalent there is the Thornycroft Antar, not the Martian. The Martian lives one level below in the hard, dirty work of guns and recovery. By the 1970s, even that is changing. West Germany moves past the Martian entirely. A new generation of heavy transporters from MAN and Fawn makes the petrol-engined Martian look like something from another century. A Victorian-era steam wagon dragged forward by stubborn engineering. Only 2 things keep it relevant: the walking beam suspension that refuses to lift wheels off the ground, and the Rolls-Royce engine that simply will not die. Replacement comes slowly, in stages. The artillery tractor roll disappears as towed medium guns give way to self-propelled systems. First the Abbott, then the M107, the M109. Eventually the AS-90. The recovery roll finally passes in 1986 when the Foden 6x6 medium recovery vehicle enters service. 333 of them are ordered to replace the FV 1119 in Ramy workshops. The heavy tractor roll goes elsewhere. First to the Scammell Crusader, later to the Scammell Commander, powered by the Rolls-Royce CI-12 diesel engine. Modern, efficient, everything the Martian is not. And yet, the Martian refuses to vanish. Between 1953 and 1964, approximately 1,380 Martians are built. Around 60 are FV-1103 artillery tractors. Around 280 are FV-1119 recovery vehicles. The rest, roughly 1,040, serve as cargo and general service variants. Decades later, survivors are few. Perhaps 25 to 50 remain across Britain and the Commonwealth. One FV-1119 stands today at the Norfolk Tank Museum at Forncett St. Peter, part of its Cold War collection. Another, an FV-1110A, is preserved at the British Commercial Vehicle Museum in Leyland, Lancashire. It sits in the original inspection building, the same place where Leyland once checked every chassis before it left the factory. And for a generation of post-war British children, the Martian lives on in another form, a die-cast dinky toy, small enough to hold in one hand, heavy enough to feel real. 1953. Chsay, Surrey. A new lorry rolls onto the test track under a grey English sky. 16 tons, 8 cylinders of petrol, 3 driven axles, already obsolete in an army turning to diesel. It has no night vision, no air conditioning, no modern hydraulics on its earliest cranes. It is built to a 1946 specification, and it serves into the 1990s. It works in the gun parks of Dortmund and Lippstadt. It works in the mud of Senelager and the dust of Cyprus. It works in the jungles of Borneo, on the ridges of the Radfan, and on home ranges when a live round tears through its door and leaves everyone standing. It works in the Hong Kong garrison 40 years after that first prototype leaves Chsay, still pulling broken British vehicles out of the mud at Kowloon. The Leyland Martian is not elegant. It is not economical. It is not modern. It is British. 1,380 of them are built. A handful are still running today. That is not luck. That is engineering designed to work when it matters, long after fashion, doctrine, and fuel economy have moved on. And when the job absolutely has to be done, this is the machine that does it.